Hello, this is Paul Munical and welcome back to another episode of Financial News. Today is July 11th and Ron Jankowski, my co-host, is off this week, so you are stuck with just me for today's show. I'm going to go ahead and begin. We're going to talk about last month and what happened in the market. And we all know June was an ugly month amongst other ugly months this year. Unfortunately, after 5 straight months of financial market declines, it got only worse in June. The broad equity market, we use the Russell 2000 index, that declined a very sharp 8.2% in the month, bringing its year-to-date performance to a decline of approximately 23.4%. That's on a price-only basis. Now, bonds and international markets provided no sanctuary. The Bloomberg U.S. Universal Bond Index, it shed 2%, while the MSCI All Country World Index, ex-US, that was down 8.6%. Now, the energy sector, it had been a safe haven from the broader market sell-off year to date, but not in June. All 11 S&P 500 sectors posted declines in June, with the energy sector off by a downside-leading 16.8%. Now, in reflection of falling energy prices and commodity prices, that's one of the reasons that drop was so steep. Crude oil prices declined for much of the month, while natural gas prices plunged following problems at an LNG export factory in Texas. That was back on June 10th. Overall, growing recession fears dominated the market, the conversation in June, thus leaving the non-cyclical consumer staples and healthcare sectors to perform best, just again, relatively speaking. The S&P 500 consumer staples sector shed 2.5% in June, while the healthcare sector was off by 2.7%. So we know it was an ugly month, but that recap proves even more so just how bad it was. Looking forward to this week and Monday in specifics, the stock index futures are down a little less than 1% following a positive week last week, with the S&P 500 off to a strong Q3 start. Overseas markets in Asia, they finished lower. China was down 1.25% on renewed COVID data as Macau closed all casinos for the first time since February 2020. Looking over at bonds, Treasury yields remain inverted for the 4th straight session, with the 10-year at 3.03% and the 2-year at 3.07%. If you're following Bitcoin, their futures are down over 6% pre-market, while gold is down by 0.4% and WTI is down 2.5%. We've got the major indices, the S&P, the Dow, and the NASDAQ, all in negative year-to-date returns, all in the over 10% range. So not reporting anything new to the viewers at home. It's been a very rough last month and a very rough start to the year. We're hoping things will turn around, but we don't know when that will be. That's going to conclude the first half of today's show. I'm going to come back in the second half and hit up some questions about required minimum distributions, how they work for you. So stay with us if you're interested in that topic, and I will be right back. Okay, thanks for staying with us. I am back with the second half of the show where, as promised, we're going to talk about required minimum distributions. I've got some common questions that I often get, so I'm going to ask myself the question and kind of answer it. So, by the time you retire, IRAs and other retirement accounts may represent some of your largest assets. Now, if this is the case, you've likely enjoyed the benefit of tax-deferred growth of earnings on those accounts for many years. But at some point, Uncle Sam will want you to start taking distributions from those assets, and of course, pay the appropriate tax due on them. This explains the existence of required minimum distributions, more commonly known as RMDs. So at a certain stage in life, the tax code requires that you begin withdrawing at least a minimum amount from your IRA on an annual basis. Now, this is true regardless of whether you need to take the money out of those accounts to meet your cash flow needs in retirement. So like I said, I'm going to go through some of these common questions and give you the answers. Some of the most important questions you may have about RMDs and how they apply to your circumstances. So the first question I often get is, at what age do RMDs first apply? The year you turn 72 is the answer to that question. It's considered your beginning date. You have until April 1st of the year after you reach age 72 to take your first required minimum distribution. Next question I always get is, after that first year, what is my deadline to take an RMD? The answer to that is, in every subsequent year, RMDs must be received by December 31st. Note that if you wait to take the initial RMD until the year after you reach age 72, you will have to take 2 distributions in that same year. That could potentially expose you to greater tax liabilities. Question number 3, and the next logical question, is what accounts are subject to RMDs? The answer being traditional IRAs, SEP IRAs, simple IRAs. Also, RMDs apply to workplace plans such as 401ks, 403bs, 457 plans, profit sharing plans, and other defined contribution plans. RMDs can maybe be delayed from workplace retirement plans until April 1st of the calendar year in which you retire if you remain employed with the same plan sponsor past age 72, but always confirm that information with your plan provider to make sure that applies to you. Next, I get often asked about Roth accounts, and are Roth accounts subject to RMDs? The answer to that is, one of the great advantages of Roth IRAs is that that RMDs do not apply to Roth IRAs. So your money can continue to grow on a potentially tax-free basis indefinitely. However, RMDs do apply to Roth 401ks. So that's something to watch for, is how those 401k rules work. Especially the Roth 401ks. Always talk to your provider about that to make sure you're doing that properly. Next question, how are RMDs calculated? Answer being, to make the calculation, you must first know the value of your account at the end of the previous calendar year. Then, using tables provided by the IRS, the minimum distribution is calculated. Now, in general, for most 72-year-olds, let's say your average balance is $200,000 on December 31st of the previous year. That amount would be divided by 27.4 years, resulting in a required hypothetical distribution of $7,299 for that first hypothetical situation. The distribution period declines throughout your life. So in certain situations, a different IRS table is used to make the calculation accurate. Next question, do distributions have to come out of all effected retirement accounts? So yes, once you reach your age 72, RMDs must be withdrawn from each account subject to the rule. Therefore, it may simplify the process to consolidate your retirement accounts, this including rolling workplace retirement plans into IRAs. As always, talk with your work plan provider, talk to your financial advisor, and talk to your tax professional to discuss the pros and cons of any consolidation before taking any action. Next question, what's the penalty if I fail to take an RMD on a timely basis? Answer being, if you fail to take an RMD in a given year or withdraw an insufficient amount, a penalty equal to 50% of the value of the amount you failed to withdraw as required will be applied. Next question, what if I don't have the need for the money? Am I required to withdraw? And this one, of course, the answer is one option is to utilize a qualified charitable distribution. This allows money to be distributed directly to a charity. And oftentimes, such a distribution can be applied towards your RMD in a given year. There is a $100,000 annual cap on the qualified distribution, qualified charitable distribution. So again, before taking any action, talk with your tax advisor on that. And just in summing up, this information today is just designed to help you understand some of the basic rules about RMDs. However, as always, it's important you meet with your financial advisor to talk about RMDs in the context of your overall retirement income strategy. And always talk to your tax advisor to make sure you're complying with the appropriate tax rules. And should you have questions on IRA distributions, 401ks, any type of investment planning, speak with your financial advisor. If you do not have one, or if you're seeking a second opinion, feel free to give me a call directly. You can reach me at 708-226-3412. And that's going to go ahead and conclude today's episode. We will be back next week with new market data updates and a new financial planning topic. So thanks for watching, and we'll see you again next week. Have a great week.